You finally got the call. The boss sat you down, smiled, and told you that your hard work paid off. You were moving up from $38,000 to a solid $50,000 a year. For about 3 weeks, you walked on air. You updated your social media profile, maybe bought a round of drinks for your friends, and finally walked into that nice steakhouse you usually only stare at from the sidewalk. You started daydreaming about the savings account you would build and the stress you would leave behind. Fast forward 6 months. You are staring at your banking app at 2 a.m. and the numbers don't make sense. Somehow, you are more anxious about rent now than you were before the raise. Your checking account balance is hauntingly identical to the old days, but now you have higher monthly commitments for things you convinced yourself were rewards for your success. Welcome to the income illusion, a place where earning $50,000 feels suspiciously like being broke, but with a slightly higher credit limit. My name is Dave, and I have spent years decoding why earning a respectable salary in the modern economy often feels like trying to fill a bathtub with the drain open. If you are someone who looks at your pay stub and wonders why it doesn't match your life, make sure to smash that subscribe button and hit the like if this video helps you realize you aren't going crazy. The math is just broken. Here is the dirty secret nobody mentions during the promotion party. $50,000 is not $50,000. It is a ghost number. By the time the government takes its share, your company subtracts benefits, and the economy extracts its hidden existence fees, that solid middle-class wage starts to look a lot like survival money. But the real trap isn't just the arithmetic. It is the mindset. Your brain doesn't calibrate your spending to your net cash. It calibrates to that big, round number on your offer letter. And that is the precise moment the trap snaps shut. Let's perform a financial autopsy on this salary. $50,000 sounds great until you strip it down. After federal income tax, state tax, Social Security, and Medicare, you are likely seeing about $38,000 actually hit your direct deposit. In most states, that breaks down to roughly $3,000 a month. Now, $3,000 sounds like a decent pile of cash until we start paying for the privilege of being alive. The average rent for a one-bedroom apartment in a city with actual job opportunities is pushing $1,500. Boom. That is 50% of your income evaporated before you have bought a single carton of eggs. You need a car to get to this $50,000 job, so add a car note of roughly $400. Then comes the insurance for the car, the insurance for your health, the utilities to keep the lights on, and suddenly, you are staring at maybe $800 left for the entire month. $800. That has to cover groceries, gas, clothes, phone bills, internet, and the laughable idea of building a nest egg. This is where the illusion becomes high definition. You are earning what society calls a good living, but you are existing on margins that look identical to minimum wage, just with a fancier job title and a more expensive student loan payment. The $50,000 salary is a mirage that convinces you that you have arrived, while your actual purchasing power keeps you shackled to the same financial treadmill you were on when you were earning peanuts. But here is where the plot twists into a tragedy. Earning $50,000 lands you in a bizarre financial no man's land. You earn too much to qualify for any government assistance, housing vouchers, or subsidies, but you earn far too little to actually accumulate wealth. You are stuck in the middle class squeeze, where your income is just high enough to disqualify you from help, but low enough that one blown tire can ruin your month. It is like treading water in a pool where the floor keeps dropping. You are technically swimming, but you are exhausted just trying to stay above the surface. The psychological toll of this purgatory is heavier than most people admit. When you are dead broke, you know it. Your expectations match your reality. You eat instant noodles. you shop at the Goodwill, and you accept that vacations are for other people. There is a strange, brutal clarity in that struggle. But when you hit $50,000, the script flips. Society tells you that you are successful. Your parents expect you to be stable. You feel an internal pressure to perform middle class. This triggers what I call status anxiety inflation. You start swiping your card for things not because you can afford them, but because you feel like you should be able to afford them. That daily $6 latte isn't just caffeine. It is a psychological prop. It is your brain trying to bridge the gap between the lifestyle you think you earned and the reality of your bank account. You aren't buying coffee. You are buying the feeling of being a person who doesn't have to stress over $6. The banks and credit card issuers understand this psychology better than you do. They see that $50,000 income and instantly approve you for credit lines that were impossible to get when you were making $30,000. Suddenly, you have access to $15,000 in credit. Your brain plays a trick on you. It starts viewing that credit limit as an extension of your salary. A $200 monthly minimum payment on a $5,000 balance feels manageable when you have a good job. So you justify the purchase, then the next one. This is how a $50,000 earner ends up with the same panic attacks as a $30,000 earner. The only difference is the $50,000 earner has nicer furniture to cry on. The trap tightens when you start looking around at your peers. Social media acts as an accelerant for this fire. You see friends with similar jobs posting from resorts in Tulum or dining at steakhouses that would bankrupt your weekly budget. You assume they know a secret you don't. You feel like a failure because you can't match their pace. The reality? Most of them are funding that lifestyle with high interest debt or family money they don't tag in their photos. What is particularly vicious about the $50,000 trap is that it is just enough money to strip you of the right to complain. If you vent about being broke, people look at your salary and assume you are just terrible at math. They don't see that after the landlord, the taxman, and the commute take their cut, there is literally nothing left to budget. You end up carrying a heavy shame, feeling like you are failing at a game that everyone else is winning, when in reality, the game is rigged. The housing market is the ultimate gaslight in this scenario. On paper, $50,000 might qualify you for a mortgage. In reality, it qualifies you for a shack in a neighborhood where you wouldn't feel safe parking your car. So you are forced to rent. But renting at these prices means you are building zero equity while watching 50% of your labor vanish into a landlord's pocket. It is a cycle designed to keep you renting forever. This leads to the most dangerous belief of all, the idea that the solution is just more income. You convince yourself that if 50 feels tight, 75 will be freedom. Then you get the next promotion, and magically, 75 feels exactly like 50 did. Your lifestyle expands like a gas to fill the container of your income, and you find yourself in the exact same emotional panic, just with higher stakes. The paycheck mirage isn't really about the specific number of $50,000. It is about the fundamental disconnect between gross pay and the cost of modern existence. It is about how we are conditioned to judge success by a salary figure that hasn't kept up with the price of being alive. The most insidious part? The $50,000 salary becomes a comfortable prison cell. You convince yourself that the problem is you. If you were just more disciplined, if you just meal prepped better, it would work. You download the budgeting apps, you read the blogs, and you genuinely try to squeeze blood from a stone. Meanwhile, the financial advice industry is standing on the sidelines yelling at you to stop eating avocado toast. Let's talk about that advice for a second. Every podcast and guru tells you that $50,000 is plenty if you just follow their simple steps. Cut the coupons, side hustle, stop buying joy. The advice isn't technically wrong, but it ignores the mathematical gravity of your situation. You can cut every luxury, stare at a blank wall for entertainment, and maybe save an extra $150 a month, which vanishes the second your car needs new brakes. And the side hustle culture? That is its own special kind of dystopia. Sure, let's just work another 25 hours a week on top of a full-time career just to afford the dignity of buying groceries without anxiety. Nothing screams success like working 70 hours a week to maintain a lower middle-class lifestyle. We have let the gig economy convince us that poverty is just a lack of hustle, rather than a systemic failure of wages to match inflation. Here is what life actually looks like inside the mirage. You develop a warped relationship with spending. You will stand in the aisle at the supermarket debating the 50-cent difference between pasta brands because that feels like a smart financial decision. Then you will drive home and auto-pay a car insurance premium that is $200 too high because tackling the big expenses feels too overwhelming. You start making decisions based on monthly payments rather than actual price tags, which is exactly where corporate America wants you. That new phone is only $35 a month. The streaming bundle is $14. The gym you never visit is $29. Individually, they are nothing. Collectively, they are a swarm of piranhas stripping your paycheck down to the bone. You suffer a death by 1,000 subscriptions, staring at a smartphone that can access all human knowledge but can't pay your electric bill. The mental exhaustion of living in this limbo is something wealthy people cannot grasp. You are constantly running a background simulation in your brain. Can I afford happy hour? If I go, do I have to skip lunch tomorrow? Every social interaction becomes a cost-benefit analysis. You realize that a $50,000 salary doesn't buy freedom. It buys the privilege of stressing about money while wearing a nice shirt. Dating becomes a minefield. You want to be generous. You want to treat your date. But splitting the bill becomes a survival tactic. You become a master of suggesting free dates. A walk in the park, a museum visit on discount day, pretending you are just romantic and anti-materialistic. And sure, maybe you are, but mostly you are just trying to keep your checking account from hitting zero. Your friends want to go to that new bistro where appetizers are $22. A coworker suggests a group trip to Vegas. A cousin gets married and expects you to fly across the country. You become the flake, the person who is always busy, always has other plans. You create excuses because saying, I make $50,000 a year and I literally cannot afford a plane ticket feels humiliating. Then there is the student loan crisis. If you did what you were told and got the degree to get the $50,000 job, you are likely sending $300 or $400 a month to a loan servicer. You are paying rent on knowledge you already used. That degree got you in the door, but now it is keeping you from walking through the next one. It is a monthly reminder of a promise that didn't quite pay off, an investment that behaves more like a mortgage on your past than a bridge to your future. And healthcare? Don't get me started. You have employer insurance, which sounds responsible until you see the deductible. $3,000 before the insurance kicks in means you don't actually have healthcare. You have catastrophe protection. You start treating your body like a used car you are trying to keep running without seeing a mechanic. Is that pain in your side worth a $200 urgent care copay, or should we just drink water and hope it goes away? You become a medical gambler, betting your long-term health against your short-term solvency. Retirement planning becomes the punchline to a bad joke. Financial advisors say, save 15%. On $50,000, that is $7,500 a year. That is more than some people spend on food. Yet you are supposed to magically sequester that cash while rent prices are rising 10% a year? The math is pure fantasy, but we all nod along like it is normal. You are asked to sacrifice your present survival for a future that feels completely theoretical. This is where the generational divide cuts deep. If your parents can help with a down payment or cover an emergency repair, $50,000 feels very different. But if you are the safety net for yourself, that income has to stretch miles. One mistake, one accident, one layoff, and it is game over. You are playing the game on hard mode while watching others play on easy and wondering why you are sweating so much more than they are. The housing market seems specifically engineered to mock this income bracket. You can afford the monthly rent, which is often higher than a mortgage, but you can't save the $40,000 down payment because the rent is too high. It is a perfect closed loop. You are paying your landlord's mortgage because the bank doesn't trust you to pay your own. You are geographically trapped. You have to live near the high-paying jobs, but you can't afford to live near the high-paying jobs. The entire system feels rigged against the $50,000 earner in a way that is almost comedic if it weren't so painful. You make too much to be poor, too little to be rich. You are successful enough to be envied by those below you, but struggling enough to envy those above you. You are drowning in slow motion, wondering how a salary that looked like a winning lottery ticket turned into financial quicksand. The truly maddening part is how this salary forces you to become an expert at financial gymnastics. You develop skills that have no value outside of survival. You know exactly which gas station is 3 cents cheaper. You know the exact day your direct deposit hits down to the hour. You have memorized the happy hour menu of every bar within a 5-mile radius because $3 tacos are your only access to restaurant culture. You become fluent in the language of delay. I'll grab that next month. Let me check my budget. I'm trying a low spend month. These aren't just phrases, they are shields. You turn frugality into a personality trait because admitting you are tapped out feels like a failure of character rather than a failure of wages. The subscription economy knows this. They know you will pay $9.99 for a distraction. Netflix, Spotify, the mindfulness app you used once. They are tiny leaks in your boat. And when you try to cancel, they offer you 3 free months and your brain sees profit instead of trap. You stay hooked, bleeding out slowly, $10 at a time. Credit card companies have turned the $50,000 demographic into a revenue stream. They know you will manage that $5,000 limit perfectly, right up until the transmission blows. Then that credit limit becomes a lifeline, and suddenly you are paying 24% interest on a car repair that cost more than your weekly paycheck. So here is the raw truth about the $50,000 salary. You aren't bad at math. The equation is broken. You aren't failing at budgeting. You are succeeding at surviving a system designed to keep you running in place. The mirage is the belief that if you just work a little harder, earn a little more, the stress will vanish. But when the game is rigged to expand your costs faster than your income, the only way to win is to stop playing by their rules. If this hit home for you, do me a huge favor. Hit that like button and subscribe to Dave Invest. Let's stop pretending the system works and start talking about how to actually navigate it. I'll see you in the next one.